So welcome to another video review from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we are talking about Crisis 1914. And you will note, I did not say a war game review. And that's because this is not a war game.
Definitely a board game.
Now this is a board game. It has a historical theme. It is about the 1914 World War I Guns of August style crisis. So this is about everything that happens before the outbreak of war. And this is a multiplayer game. I know the box says that you can do it two-player. I have played it two-player. I would not recommend that.
It's made for full 5 players,
yeah,
right?
like,
That's the way it's supposed to be enjoyed.
I've played this now 1, 2, 3 times. The first time was 2-player, and then I played it 5-player, and then we took it to San Diego and played another 5-player game of it as well.
With the designer,
yes, which
Maurice
is
Suckling,
Maurice
which was
Suckling.
very helpful.
Yes.
Because the rulebook's a little challenged.
So this is put up by Worthington. And so I kept coming back to it, right? I've played this a number of times. The first time was 2-player, and it was a friend of the show, Jeff Dreyer. We learned it, we think. And it was a bit of a struggle because the rules aren't brilliant, and the play aids weren't very helpful in the sense that they don't really exist.
Yeah.
And there's information that's on your play aid, like on your player mat, which
Well, it tells you how to, your actions and your passing. It tells you about those things.
But it just has a holding box that those things exist.
Sure.
It has your, like, unique
abilities.
kind of, that come from cards. But there is, on Board Game Geek, significantly better play aids. And I would say those are very highly recommended. They're almost required, not quite required, but like...
I printed them off for my
You
copy.
will want those. They make a massive difference because it actually is a functioning play aid that has all the stuff that you need on it. That's much, much more helpful than kind of rooting through the rules, and there's really not that kind of information that's on your player boards. And there's like one little bit of scoring over here in a sequence of play, but in 5 players, that's halfway across the table, and it's upside down.
Yeah.
Get the play aids. You will want them. They will improve the quality of life of this game. So,
And it really is, I think, a pretty good game.
yes.
Like, I enjoyed what we were doing.
Yes.
Even though I played it once, I definitely enjoyed what I was doing. I enjoyed the discussions around the table and trying to win, but I did terribly. But that's fine. But I still enjoyed what we were doing.
Yeah, so what is this game? This is a 5-player because you want to play at max players. You really do. You could do it 4. As soon as you start to get below 4, though, I think the game stagnates a little bit. You lose some of the stuff that makes it fascinating. This is, each player has a different deck of cards. They represent one of the major powers, either of the Entente or the Axis. And you are tableau building.
Yeah.
You do a tableau, and you'll do that 6 times over the course of 6 weeks, and you're trying to score prestige, and you're trying to win at the end of the game. You are trying to have the most prestige as World War I kicks off without having kicked it off yourself.
And when someone does kick it off, they lose the game.
So it's a
So
game.
you're out.
It's the ultimate game of brinksmanship, and you do that through tableau building, which pushes up your score, but will also push up international relations tension. And it's a case of doing that, making other people do things they don't want to do by, going hard on the score track.
Yep.
And you're either going to score a bunch of points, or you're going to force someone else to go maybe a little bit harder than they want, and then you scale it back, and then it's like,
Well, I think that is one of the most, in my opinion, one of the best parts of the game is that score track. Because, up until, 16, 17 points, there's no negative effect, right? And what you're trying to do is you're trying to be the highest on this track. You're going to get the most points. Second and third's going to get some points. I don't think fourth gets points,
I think
right?
second gets, everyone gets like 1 point as long as they're over 13.
Okay.
So if you don't do anything, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You have to contribute. But then that's just it. There's lots of little things like that. So if you get all of those red cards out, you can kind of like shut other people down.
Yep.
You'll have a high score because there's a high value score in cards as well. And so you've got, I've got this really big score. Then you do the
I can't, the resetting action basically.
Or, no,
Can't
you
remember
do
what it's
the
called.
belligerence action, which doubles your score.
Oh, yeah.
So you're like trying to shoot the moon almost with having this really good hand and doing that. But if you're doing that at the same time someone else is trying to do it, and they're doing a belligerence action, if you do a belligerence action and you don't win that round with the highest score, you take a
devastating.
penalty.
Yeah.
And so you get into a game of it's really, really fun brinksmanship and trying to one up each other and pushing how hard you want to go.
Well,
do you have the ability to have done that to someone and then scale back?
Well, it's a lot about kind of reading the table, looking at what they're building with their tableaus and what they're trying to do, and then reacting to that. You also want to be a trendsetter and be kind of out front, but you got to have a parachute on to be able to protect yourself. And that was what, is it the reorg action where you can reset your tension down? What was, I can't remember,
No,
it's been a while.
Resetting your tension comes, or like reducing your tension score comes from a specific type of card. I believe.
Okay, there we go.
Is the yellow ones? That's assertion, or it's the light blue ones. It's one of them. Or is
Reduced tension is the light blue.
It's the light blues. The light blues have the capacity to do that, but not all of the light blues. But some of them do.
Some of them.
So like you have to have these parachutes. There's not many of them. And I think the asymmetry within the faction decks, because they're all different, they're all historical, and they've all got different focuses. Some are better at that than others, and so you see this kind of play out where it's like, ooh, 2 or 3 of us are going head to head to try to win this round, because you know kind of early, like, oh, I'm doing less well.
Yeah.
I'll keep it low key this turn. They're gonna kind of go really hard, use all these good cards. I know that next hand they're going to have much worse tableaus. I'll be more likely to have better stuff. So I'm going to kind of stay a little bit reserved, and then next turn I'm going to go.
Yeah.
But then you've got these 3 people duking it out. One of them's going to drop out probably quite quick, and they're going to kind of be middle of the road, and that's also not the best place to be. But then you've got these 2 who are going at it. You must win it. If you go
because
really
you've
hard,
invested a lot in it.
yeah, and if you go really hard and you don't win that round, the difference in the points that you won't score versus everything you invested into it can be devastating.
100%.
And then on top of that, you've got all of these unique events to do with mobilization and like, saber rattling and all the stuff that was actually done of like sending out threats, the Kaiser writing a blank check and all this stuff that we kind of know and love. You do those things and that adds these other cards to people's decks. And when they play those, it adds these cards to my decks. And if you pull your mobilization card and you're forced to play it because of something that happened, you start World War I and you lose. And everyone else scores their prestige, and the person with the highest prestige who didn't start the war wins. And so there's a lot about this hand management and deck management, which I just love the tension of all of that and the mechanics of doing all those things, and for it to have like a thematic purpose. Like you're trying to manipulate this political landscape and this diplomatic landscape, and you do it through card play and through adjusting your tension dice, scoring the points, going up and down on the track. Normally, all of those things individually are like pretty dry Eurogame mechanics that I don't enjoy. But meshed together the way they are,
they work
in this
well.
theme, it's really enjoyable in the multiplayer experience.
Yeah. Well, and I would say I found that the game was a real delicate balance of hand management, a little bit of planned aggression, and then being able to, you keep using the word brinksmanship. I think Maurice used that a ton in the rule book, but it's really about outplaying others and forcing them to do things they don't necessarily want to do.
Yeah.
And then you taking advantage of the cards that you have played to put yourself in a good position. Where the belligerence action, where you're scoring double prestige, you're only going to get that like once a game, maybe twice.
Yeah, if you can do it twice,
because your tension's going to go up because of that, and it's a continual management of that. Because if your tension gets to 4 or 5, you have to play the game.
If your tension hits 6, you lose.
You lose. But when it gets to 3 and 4, you seriously have to consider is this worth it?
Yeah, I do. The next turn, I'm going to take a back seat, and we'll know you're doing that.
Yep.
So you're not the threat.
So I'm not going to score many points this turn because I've got to reset a little
and there's
bit.
that. It's only
It's
6
an ebb and flow.
turns, but
Yep.
that you have that ebb and flow, even within a hand of cards. But you have it over the course of the game. It was like,
Yeah.
I went really hard. I'm going to scale it back. I went really hard. I'm going to scale it back. Or you can be like, I went mid, mid, mid. I won one, and then I
Yep.
went mid again, and you can have collated enough points, and that one big win can take you over the top as well.
Yeah.
So there's a few different ways that you can play it, and I think I like that as well, where it's not just.
Yeah.
I think there's optimal ways to play a lot of Euro games. This isn't necessarily a Euro game, although it probably is.
Yeah.
But playing optimally looks very different in this. And I don't think there's a way to play optimally with how your cards come out and what you're trying to do and how much you have to interact with everyone else.
Well, and I think that's the other cool thing about the decks. They're all so different.
Very.
They each have different focuses and strengths. I was the Germans, basically. Or was I the... Wait, I was the one... Was I the Habsburgs? Where my mobilization card got put into my deck.
Yes, you were the Austro-Hungarians.
Yeah, and it got put into my deck, like, early. And I had to fight that thing the whole time because I had a couple of cards that could push it down to the bottom of the deck. But you have to keep going through this deck. Like, you're drawing cards off the top.
And playing them.
And playing them.
Like if you do that.
If that mobilization card is 5 or 6 cards down, you're going to draw it this round. And you've got to be cognizant of that and understand how to manage that. I loved that with the Habsburgs. I felt like I was on a knife's edge, and I'm like, oh, I got to do this, but I also got to worry about this. But it was interesting and fun. But then I saw others doing totally different things.
Yes.
And I enjoyed that.
The Austrians have one of those, the Russians have one, and I believe the Germans have one as well. Like there's the actual mobilization cards. I'm pretty sure the Germans have one. They might not, but
They do. The Germans do, yeah.
Whereas the English or the British and the French do not, but they have lots of other things that unlock that or play off of them as well. And so there's so much that goes on within this, and some of those cards will play off each other. That's where the play aids work, is that it's like, hey, if you see this card, make sure that you ensure that these guys get their cards in.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's included on those plays, and that's helpful where it's these unique faction-based kind of specific rules.
Well, and also, like, I'm looking here at this is the Austro-Hungarian. I would get prestige points based on when I played...
Yeah.
Was it the Kaiser's blank check?
No, the assassination
investigation.
Trying to get Gavrilo Princip.
But if I played it early, I only got 2 points. But if I played it later, I would get 4. That was another kind of interesting ballet, trying to know when I had to play that and when I really had no other option.
Yeah.
But I think everybody has stuff kind of like that in a different way.
Yeah, they all have their little bits and pieces that are for them and what they do, and you want to achieve those things as well.
So this game is going to reward multiple plays, because then you're going to learn and become familiar, not just with the deck you're playing, but others' decks, to better understand their capabilities, their concern areas, and then you can start reading what they're trying to do by the cards that they are playing. To me, that's the sign of a good design, right? It's not just a one-trick pony. You're going to play this again and again and again, and you've played it 3 times. I've only played it once. I would love to play it again, because I think you're going to learn and grow and understand how to better play the game. And to me, that's important.
And I also like the focus of the game, where the player boards, it's not like the presidents or the prime ministers and the tsars, and it's not the Kaiser. It's the ambassadors. Mm-hmm. And like, this is a diplomatic game. This is us with doing back channels and getting together for conferences, sending letters and wires and phone calls. They did that. They went that extra step of like, hey, you guys are the ambassadors, the diplomats, and not just like the world leaders doing that, because they weren't doing that.
No,
they the Tsar, what was it, Little Nicky? Him, like he's talking to his cousins, who, like George and all that, and like they're doing, but like that's not moving the needle in the way that it's like the actual ambassadors and diplomats who are doing this stuff, trying to make it happen or stop it happening.
Yeah.
Like that's where the work was actually being done day to day, and I think that was a neat little touch that Maurice kind of made sure was here as well.
Well, I think this game reminds me of a couple of other games, right? Not necessarily in the way they're executed or the mechanics, but Churchill is one that comes to mind because Churchill is, well, this has no debating mechanic. Churchill is also using all of those folks, right?
Yeah.
The chiefs of staff.
It's a diplomatic game.
Right. You're representing those folks. I very much enjoy that. Versailles 1919 also has some comparability, but because it's also a Euro game based on cards and also the political machinations.
It's about, favored influence and doing all that stuff. And this is an iteration of that kind of game. And I like the themes and the feels of these kinds of games.
So I think the reason I bring those couple of games up is because if you like those, you're going to enjoy this. Now, they're different. I think that's important to understand.
They're mechanically different, but it's the
concepts.
And they play in a similar type of space.
Yeah.
Where like we're not hexes and counters moving guys around rolling on CRTs. It's I'm playing the players.
Yep.
And what we're representing, and that's good stuff there as well. Okay. There's a lot of dice you can see right here.
Yeah.
You never roll dice in this game. These dice are markers for victory points.
Well, VP and tension.
Yes. And so I say that the dice are fine. I don't mind about the dice. But there's a few interesting choices that were made in this game from like a UI standpoint. So not having any play aids, that's pretty bad. We don't love that. There's a few different choices with the way that all the cubes are used. There's a bunch of different colored cubes. You use a bunch for the tracks. And you use a bunch for the turn order, but then when you end up like passing, you have to maintain the pass order, and the rules literally say that you stack them up like we've got a little freaking tower of them over here, and that's just like the worst conceivable idea. You can just lie them down next to each other in a line.
It should have just been
and just ensure, and the rule says
there.
left to right, but it doesn't. It says you stack them, and it's like okay, if everyone passes though, which they will, okay. There's just some like little weird nuances like that, or the way that you end up going down the initiative tracks and making sure that they're doing it if you have to rearrange them because someone steals the initiative. There's all these bits and pieces that go on, and it shouldn't be as like complex and convoluted as it is, but the rulebook really did its best to make the mechanics kind of opaque, which was a real shame.
Yeah.
Because I know that's not what Maurice intended, but like I really struggled with this rulebook.
Agreed.
Because it's just worded in such a way, and what you're doing mechanically is maybe a little different from some of the stuff you're doing. That when it was Jeff and I starting to learn it, like it took us a long time
just to get it down.
Just to kind of figure it. We played this for 4 hours for 2 players, and it was kind of like I was just trying to figure it out. And be like, what does this even mean?
Well, and
there were some contradictory things and stuff that was just extremely vague,
or that was unclear. I think the interesting thing was we played it with Maurice, the designer. Mark Herman was at the table, you, me, and then John Wolfe. And I think Maurice did his best in describing and trying to teach, but it did not help me.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that the designer wasn't able to help me. And that's fine, right? Not everybody can teach something.
Yeah. But we've learned other games from him.
But we have, and it wasn't a problem. But I thought that was interesting, and I think we are bringing that up because you need to be aware of that. Yes. This is a game, and I don't know that there's a lot of videos out there, right? We're not doing a playthrough video of this.
No.
But you're going to have to digest that rule book 2 or 3 times to really get the concepts, and then you better print off those play aids.
Yeah.
Because if without those, you're going to struggle. I only say that because I really feel like this is a good game.
Yes.
I think it's an interesting game. That's a great design. I'm not sure it's clearly explained or executed like it could have been.
It's a really enjoyable game, and that's in spite of the rulebook,
yes.
Unfortunately, which is not normally the case.
It's never been really the case in most other Worthington games or Maurice Suckling's games that we have played.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
But this one, and that's what, it was frustrating because I was really looking forward to it. And it even was just the two of us just kind of learning it. It was great. And then we were like, okay, we kind of figured it out.
Yeah.
It took us a long time, and we had asked questions online, and even Marisa had answered a couple of them. So I appreciate that. And then like a month later, I got together with 5 people, and we played it, and the game was much, much better because we had that bit of experience, but it was also, we saw the game for what it was with the 5-player. That's where it's really good because there's much more in the way of, trying to mess with each other a little bit. But there was still a lot of like, okay.
Yeah.
Make sure that we do this and this when someone passes the initiative, or when they take their deliberate action. You've got to put a cube that's used, and it's like, well, I don't have enough cubes for this.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's just the way that some of the things worded isn't as clear as it should have been. But we figured it out. I've played it a number of times. I will continue to play this because it is a cool game.
Yep.
And
100%.
It's not super mega involved. Like, it kind of is, in the sense that, like...
And I would disagree with that, because I think it is involved. If you're not focused on what you were supposed to be doing, you're going to get lost.
But, like, I'm doing cards to my tableau and scoring points, right? It's not...
But you've got to do them in a proper way and order, and you've got to remember what's on the cards, right? Because, remember, different colored cards associate with different special abilities. And most of them, you got to have like 3 or more.
But also, not all of them are the same. Like, not every yellow card is equal.
You're
like,
right.
It's not a 60-page rule book where I'm trying to memorize all the different exceptions that trigger different parts of World War II. It's
just an involved game from how it all works together.
Yes.
But it's playable. It's just, you got to get it down. And that would be my caution. Print the play aids off. Give everybody a copy of the rule book, or email it to them so they can all read it and understand it.
Go on to Board Game Geek. Yep. That's all your answers are going to be there.
But you've got to give it a try, because I really honestly believe there's a very, very good game here. I very much enjoyed what we did.
Yeah, I really had a good time. I have played this a few times, and I wouldn't if it was bad. Like,
sure, right.
When Jeff and I played it the first time, even on the 2-player experience,
it would have been very easy for you to pack the game up and never bring it out again.
It would have been but we could see what was there. Yeah. It was just a case of getting to it.
Yeah.
Also, so the 2-player for this, it's kind of like the 2-player in Here I Stand. Like,
I
learned the rules, but it's not. It's not the game.
Is it Austro-Hungary versus?
It's Austria, Hungary, and Russia.
Okay, that's the 2.
But we learned the rules.
Yeah.
But the game is from having 5 players and the tugs of war. That's where the game is, and that's what makes the game really good.
Well, and your Here I Stand comparison, we played the Holy War for 2. It's a great way to learn what's going on, particularly with the Holy War.
Yes.
We didn't learn a whole lot about the other part of it.
No, but you can get little bits of all the other stuff.
But it was a good baptize, pun intended.
Yes.
Baptizing into the concept of that game, and I think
the 2 players. But that's not Here I Stand. Like, that's not the game.
And I think the 2-player in this is not the game.
No, it's
a way to learn it.
Yeah, and so
does this have a solo bot?
That's a good question. I want to say no.
Okay.
This is just a card back.
Yeah, and a lot of those cards he wrote up for us and put them on our blog, which was really nice.
Yeah,
those actually did really well.
We'll say on the back, right? So 2 to 5 players. It says 1 to 5, which means they
for solo rules, see page 11.
Okay, so there is solo.
So there is solo rules. There we go. I just missed it, and it's like 3 pages.
I would never play this.
Well, I would try it, but you got to remember, Alexander, we talk about this a lot. We're lucky to have the 2 of us, and we're lucky to be able to leverage 4 or 5 other people.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't get 2 or 3 people together, and they got to play something solo. It's just not what this game is made for.
This game is here for a 5-player experience.
Sure.
A 4-player experience. Sure.
Yeah, 4 or 5.
I'll give you 4 or 5. But that's what this is for. They included a 2-player. They included a solo, almost because you have to these days. But to me, this is, just even conceptually, right? It's the same thing with Here I Stand. I'm just going to play Austria, Hungary, and Russia. Okay, well, that's got nothing to do with what happened in August of 1914, right? That's They didn't do anything in isolation. And that's what makes this game so fun, is that when you take an action, everyone's paying attention.
100%.
And
I would agree.
in a way that other Euro games, it's like, it's multiplayer solitaire half the time. And in this, it's not that, and it was a joy. And you get into the role-playing aspect of it, doing the saber rattling, and that's
there
fun
was
as
some
well.
yelling across the table.
Which is great.
And you got to remember, when we played at San Diego Historicon, we had Mark Herman, you and me, John Wolf, who's the guy that you play with when you're traveling on business in Minnesota, and then the designer. And it was fun, right?
Yeah.
Hearing Mark say things, John was pretty animated. I thought Maurice was... It was very interesting, and that's what it's made
That's
for.
how my other plays have been as well, because that's half the fun, is the jockeying and jokes and all that kind of stuff as well.
Well, I always remind people in negotiate, and this isn't necessarily a negotiation game.
No, it's a pretend negotiation.
Right, it's a pretend negotiation, but I always remind people in a negotiation style game like Here I Stand, you can't just make something up and say, I'm going to come crush you. Bring it, boy. I ain't giving you what you need unless you give me something.
Half the fun of this is
the banter.
You're building a little tableau and just like pushing the stuff, and then it's like, what are you going to do about it? It's and trying to goad people into doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing.
Sure. And go for it.
And then doing that enough where they're like, oh no, he's goading me. And it's like, this is the time I don't want you to do it. And you can get into all that kind of stupid stuff as well. And that's where a multiplayer experience really shines, because everyone gets their personalities out, and it's a good fun. But yeah, Crisis 1914 from Worthington. I think that everyone would benefit from playing this. I'm not going to pretend it's not work, though. So if you've got someone who knows how to play it, you gotta hit them up. Get the play aids online. Ask your questions in the BGG forums.
I think Maurice typically responds pretty quickly.
He's very good at responding. But yeah, like if you can get 4 or 5 players together, this is a really fun game.
Yep.
We don't play a lot of games like this.
No.
And this one, to me, it also feels like a Hallmark Maurice Suckling game.
Sure.
He loves a game that has this, I don't know how to describe that, but some of the hallmarks of what his designs have, where it's like, if you go too hard, you lose. I feel like that was in that the Peace game that we played of his.
Peace 1905.
1905, I want to say 6.
Similar concepts,
but like
definitely.
You get an element of brinksmanship, or you get elements of, okay, let's dial it back a little bit. And war games don't have that. There's no part in a war game where you're like,
I'm not going to go hard.
Let's scale it back a little bit. That's very rare.
In a war game, you're going hard as much as you can.
Yeah, typically.
Yeah.
And so you get stuff in here that isn't typical.
Yeah.
And the atypical stuff, to me, is typical of Maurice's design philosophy, where he's trying to do something new and fresh in his games.
Yeah.
So you get all that in there. It's just a little bit buried in a rule book that isn't my favorite to have read. So all those caveats aside, I think you should check it out.
I loved it. I had a great time with it.
Would
love to play it again. This needs to be one we try to get on our convention kind of rotation.
Yeah.
Because it also plays like in 2 hours. Right?
Yeah,
this is not a 6-hour game.
Yes, and because it's 6.
What is it advertised as?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably 2 hours. They say victory within 2 hours.
Okay.
It's probably about 2 hours. It can end soon, though. It can end quick, and so it would be shorter.
If it goes poorly for somebody, it could end in 30 minutes. I mean,
yeah, if it goes to the end of week 6, you're doing it 2 hours.
Yeah, but I think 90 minutes to 2 hours is most of what the game is.
If someone mobilizes, it could be 1 hour.
Yeah, but enjoyed it very much. We didn't have this on our top 10 war games list because we don't consider it a war game.
Yes, and that's
a board game. We probably should have done a board game list.
We play a lot of board games.
We played about 8 or 10. Not as many as we normally do, but I mean, Frosthaven was one, right? Buttons and Bugs.
Was that 25?
Yeah, no, it's 24. It was a 24.
Was it?
Came out early 24, maybe late 23. I don't know. Anyway, this isn't necessarily a war game, but it's a good game.
That's very good.
I just think it needs to be.
Yeah, you have to put in a bit more effort into this than you do some other games out there. So Crisis 1914 from Worthington. You got to check it out if you're interested. Appreciate you for tuning in. I'm Alexander from PlayersAid.com.
And I'm Grant.